The Raptors roll into Philly and take down the 76ers 93-88. I'm Randy Urban, and welcome to Raptors Night Cap. Tonight, we're joined by Amy Audibert, Sherman Hamilton, and Paul Jones. Amy, this was a huge win, maybe even a statement game. How did the Raptors pull it off?
Grit. I mean, the same way they've been pulling off a lot of these close games. And another one here without Fred, which is, you don't say too lightly, do you? But they fought. Nick Nurse just joked. He said they took the first quarter off and then they played incredibly tough the last three. But the bottom line is it was defense, right? Like, it was a defensive effort because Joel Embiid and James Harden played tonight. That's where, in my opinion, it always starts on the defensive end for these guys.
Mm-hmm. Sherm, how'd they do it in your eyes?
Well, they came out flat, and Nick Nurse called that first time out in the first quarter and kind of challenged his guys to say, what are we doing here? A game like this with two players like Joel Embiid and James Harden, you've got to win those 50-50 balls. You've got to sacrifice your body. You got to be the first to the floor. And they responded, and especially think their bench responded to get it going. But they also did what they do. They got on the glass, 20 offensive rebounds in this game. They had 20 more possessions than the Philadelphia 76ers. So they played to their strength. But I will say this, the individual defenders on Joel Embiid and James Harden were all in when they were guarding the ball. They were physical. They were relentless. They refused to just allow these two guys to do what they wanted to. And I think that frustrated them. And for some reason, Nick Nurse and the Toronto Raptors live inside Joel Embiid's head rent-free. Mm-hmm. He just can't seem to figure them out consistently. And credit Nick Nurse. He mixed it up nicely on Joel Embiid and James Harden, gave them some different looks.
Mm-hmm. And Jonesy, the help was great too, right? Like every time they did get a little step, they were there.
Yeah, they were terrific. I mean, Philadelphia's shooting percentage after the first quarter ended where it was well over 50%, ended up at a 40%. And Toronto's defense was relentless. And to me, you said, is this maybe a statement win? If this is a playoff game and you're grinding it out and you're going to have to win somewhere along the line, a playoff game, you're going to have to win in the 90s or the high 80s. It's going to be a rock fight. It's going to be one of those nights where you have to win like that. And the Raptors showed tonight they're more than capable of doing that. I thought they got great performances and just kept hanging in, just make a play. And they come out with a victory. So, people say, well, it wasn't pretty. It doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to be effective. I joked, first year of the team walking to the bus with Brendan Malone, I said, man, what a win that was, coach. That was a good win. He goes, I've been in this league 15 years. Tell me when there's a bad one. Yeah. And that's what it was tonight. A win is a win. You take it for what it is, particularly on the road, as you said, against a good team. And Sherm mentioned about the mental side of it. This could be a playoff matchup. And you've won now 2 games in their building in the regular season in very close fashion.
Amy, it didn't look as easy for Harden for me tonight as it has in the past. And obviously the Raptors defense, as we mentioned, was good, but do you see that from him that he's a bit slower this year? Are you seeing a little bit of a decline, or you just think people are figuring it out how to guard him a little bit better?
Yeah, I'm not going to say that because I think James Harden can pick it up pretty quick. But I think a lot of it's strategy. Nick Nurse, again, just talked about how he's an elite scorer, 3-level scorer, and today they wanted to force him to the floater. And that's what their intention was, give him the floaters and just throw the rim protection around. Do I think that the guy's in a new system and they've continually said that he doesn't know the playbook yet? I mean, a new system? Yeah. So I think there's still a learning curve to the way Philadelphia is happening right now. But do I think James Harden's going to have some spectacular performances down the stretch here? Absolutely. Am I glad we do get him again, don't we? I think we get him again. Yep. I was going to say, am I glad we're not going to see him, but we will see him one more time. So I thought that, again, like Nick Nurse is a brilliant mind, and he, again, displayed that tonight with how they guarded those two guys.
Yeah. Sherm, can you expand a little bit on what they did to Embiid to frustrate him?
Well, I thought early in the game, that Joel Embiid was getting it on the left block or right block, and the Raptors were kind of stunting at him, faking when they were coming with the double team. And then Doc Rivers, in the chess game between he and Nick Nurse, moved him to the free throw line area. Mm-hmm. So he could really, in a closer distance, see the double team and make a play to pick apart. The passes are shorter. You can get it to the basket more effectively. But they defended Joel Embiid one-on-one, and this is where Precious Achiuwa did a great job, whether it was Joel Embiid or James Harden. He moved his feet, and Chris Boucher, who's lurking in the shadows, comes at the rim, and he starts to block, alter, and just try to create some havoc around the basket. He drew a charge, a couple blocks, just did some good things. And I really thought it was interesting to see Joel Embiid expecting contact and not getting it. And the Raptors did a great job of defending without fouling. And that, to me, is a big, big part of this game. The Philadelphia 76ers, they get to the free throw line. Joel Embiid gets to the free throw line over 11 times a game. The Raptors did a good job of defending without fouling. Don't bail them out, force them to make buckets, and they put a lot of resistance up there. And we talk about schemes and Nick Nurse, and he's very, very good at creating game plans. But if that individual defender on the basketball does not stay committed to the job with physicality, with the toughness, with staying disciplined, your help side isn't going to do anything for you. And I thought whomever defended the ball did a great job in all those areas and really creating trouble for Joel Embiid.
I think the other part to add to that too, Randall, is the length with the double teams. And Joel Embiid could be the MVP this year, but he still struggles passing out of double teams. When you come at him with, Sherm talked about guys moving their feet, but when you come at him with high hands and like he can see it coming, and it's all, I wouldn't say he's panicking, but there's an anxiety, a risen level of anxiety there in terms of getting rid of the ball and making that the right pass under duress. You get it out of his hands. You know what? Let Matisse Thybulle beat you. Let Tyrese Maxey try to beat you consistently. Joel Embiid and James Harden can. And I still think, because I've watched Philadelphia a lot, when he is able to operate one-on-one, and as Sherm said, get the contact, get to the free throw line, find a rhythm, he's tough. But the Raptors destroyed that rhythm tonight. And I think the way they double team and the fact that they say, we're going to come at you with double teams. Are you prepared to make the right play consistently? And if he doesn't, you're going to get live ball turnovers. You're going to disrupt their offense. I just think the game plan is really solid there defensively.
You mentioned, or Sherm mentioned Precious Achiuwa. Like, Amy, it's ridiculous when you can say he guarded Joel Embiid and also James Harden in the same game and did it well, right?
But LeBron James and
but also like he's turning into a legit scoring option. There was a bucket, I think in the third quarter where he went left, took the contact, got cut off, took the contact and faded back. Like that play, that was not even close to being seen earlier this year.
Yeah, I think everyone has to continue to remember that Precious Achiuwa is in his second year in the NBA. He played behind Bam Adebayo last year. I keep saying this. He took one three-pointer the entire season last year. He missed it. He was 0 for 1. Like, he's in a completely different system. He is given a completely different role. He's asked to do completely different things. And there's going to be a curve there, right? And it doesn't matter who you're talking to. They always say, especially at the beginning of the year, it was maybe almost I'm trying to do too much because I think he's probably come in pretty excited, understanding the fit that's here. Now you're seeing him just make better decisions. There's obviously a heightened sense of confidence, which after All-Star break, he got the Rising Stars and he was really good there. And that was that big All-Star weekend platform. And I think that helped him too, but it's on both sides of the ball. I mean, offensively, of course, his numbers don't lie, but the defensive confidence as well. So again, in his second year, it's just, he's got a pretty high ceiling. So, and he's in a system that works for him and for what he likes to do.
Came into tonight's game shooting 44% from three after the break.
Over 100 attempts on the season too.
And there are to me there are touchstone plays that he is making that shows that he understands his freedom and he's not being careless with it. He took an offensive rebound down today and was right under the hoop, would have been a contested putback, didn't take it, dribbled it out, kicked it out. I think it was Gary Trent Jr., punched into the lane, made another pass, and they ended up with a dunk about 8 feet on the other side of the hoop from where Achua originally got the rebound. Mm-hmm. At the beginning of the year, he's forcing that back up. He's bouncing it. He's shot faking. He's trying to.
That's a great point.
No. And it's just, like I said, it's like a kid who's got all this freedom and has only had to stay on the front lawn. Now he's got a bike and he can ride it all over. And the parents can't find him at 9 p.m. Where is the kid? Where is the kid? Now the kid understands, you know what? I can ride my bike anytime. I'm home at 8:30. Tomorrow I'll stay out late, or the next night. Or he just understands his freedom and what's going on with it and how to use it.
Yeah. And then, when they won the jump ball late, he got the ball and he made a point of really passing it strongly to Scotty up ahead and not, turning it over like we saw in the game before. So he's learning every game. But Sherm, you mentioned Boucher and you highlighted him, I think, in your post game on the telly today. I don't know why I just said telly, but you know what I'm noticing? He's taking charges, right? This is kind of a new thing for him because this guy was a shot blocker. And I love how he's stepping in and taking it in the numbers.
Well, he still is a shot blocker. I mean, This is just Chris Boucher understanding there's different ways to make that chicken, right? Like he knows for a fact that he can go up and block shots, but he also knows that he's at a deficit with a James Harden coming at him. He knows that if the whistle's going to be blown, the likelihood of him getting that whistle probably isn't as high with a guy like James Harden. So he drew a charge today. He had the principles of verticality where he got that elbow late in the game, which was a huge play. He didn't try to block that shot. He just tried to present resistance. And James Harden knows him for a shot blocker, put that elbow up to clear some space. So Chris Boucher is getting it. And it's a part of it is the respect he's getting around the league too. Now he doesn't have to go swinging at shots anymore because offensive players know he's there and know what his capabilities are when it comes to blocking and altering shots. So they start to think a little bit going into the lane. But we talk about Precious's ability to recognize and grow. Chris had that same learning curve this season. Earlier in the season, he was trying to get his minutes by shooting the basketball. They got to him, told him to calm down, got him to understand where his real value is for this team. And we're seeing it consistently with the hustle, the offensive energy on the glass, the defensive energy. Chris is making big plays for this team. None bigger than that charge he drew late in the game with that flagrant one on James Harden. So understanding the roles is something Nick Nurse and his staff has done a great job of really getting everybody to buy into what they're asked to do.
Jonesy, what did you think of the calls tonight? I thought that was pretty frustrating when Trent didn't get, and then there's like Embiid fouled Siakam and like all of a sudden you come out of that with a jump ball. Like, how is that possible?
Yeah.
I know that's the rules.
The Trent one really kind of puzzled me because they talk about protecting an airborne shooter. James Harden, there was the contact was legal on the ball, but as he kept running, he contacted a guy who was in a natural shooting motion, a layup with the shooting leg and the corresponding arm in the air. He hit him. I mean, back in the days, if you do that and you don't hit the ball, that's called an undercut. So like, I don't, that puzzles me. It really does. They've got to become more consistent. I just thought they overthought that call too much. Yeah, I really did. I just thought they were overthinking that one too much. But look, it's the old adage, right? I don't care how rough the water is, bring the ship in. And you're going to get those kinds of games where you're not going to get calls. Sherm just talked about Chris Boucher and, different ways of protecting the rim, blocking shots, taking charges. I don't care how you get it done, just get it done. And the Raptors were able to play through those things. And they've become pretty good at doing that for the most part this year, understanding we're not going to get the calls all the time. So you know what? Ignore it, play through it, and let's get the next one.
Amy, this is not like could be a first round matchup. Like Philadelphia could be third. The Raptors could be 6, no problem. I like this matchup. I do.
Okay. I don't.
Do you?
Yeah,
I do.
I think when you get to
you didn't have two starters today, Amy. Okay, you didn't have two starters today.
You're right. Listen, if the Raptors are healthy in a 7-game series, you're going to get a couple at least against Philadelphia. I think with this team that they continue to prove over and over this season is they do rise and step up to the challenge. You could probably count on your hands how many times you can say they just didn't compete tonight. Mm-hmm. And as you know, when you get to the playoffs, there's a lot of bump and grinding. So I think the non-calls that they saw tonight, they're probably going to see in another 3 weeks from now. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was you cannot put the value on a Precious, a Scotty, and even a Gary getting these types of experiences, because let's not forget, Gary played behind Dame and CJ. He didn't get time on the court in Portland. So these are all new minutes for these guys. So, I mean, back to your question, I think they're all good at when you get to the playoffs. Yeah, the record's good. Philly's going to be a tough out. I think they're going to be a really tough out when playoff time comes.
Mm-hmm. So is Toronto, right, Amy?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I said they're all tough. They're all going to be tough. You can't ask me. I can't answer who I'd like to see in the playoffs, because they're all good.
Well, Sherm, this is this is something that I think you mentioned earlier in the show, and I've heard multiple now coaches and players talk about this. It's so unique playing the Raptors because of the length, right? These are different basketball games. You're preparing differently because of that, and I think teams are afraid of this.
Well, I don't know if they're afraid, but they definitely have to game plan differently. I mean, a lot of this league is predicated on screen and roll basketball and dribble handoffs, and teams have decided to switch. And when you're the Raptors, you can switch 6'9" to 6'9" to 6'9", and you have all that length that can still play on the perimeter as well as mix it up down low. So not very many teams in this league have that consistent length that can play on the perimeter and in the post. And that's what makes them unique. And even for a guy like James Harden, he's used to being stronger than players. So if you're bigger than him in terms of height, you can absorb some of that contact and still be long. And that's what we saw in this game, the ability, as James Harden does, gets into people's bodies. But if their hands are up and they stay moving their feet, they're still going to present resistance at the rim. And I think that's a unique battle that coaches have to figure out. And the Raptors buy in on the defensive end. I will say this, though, to your question about Philadelphia in the playoffs, I'm perfectly fine with the Raptors seeing them in the playoffs. I think what the Raptors do to Philadelphia, they haven't figured out yet. Now, maybe by the playoffs, they'll be a different team. James will have more reps under his belt, will know the playbook, and they play differently. But as of right now, the game I saw today, the way that the Raptors grinded them out and actually didn't play well down the stretch, missed free throws as well, and still got the W without Fred, without OG, I'm willing to roll the dice on the Raptors against Philadelphia as they're presently constituted.
Jonesy, you want to chime in on that?
Like I said, that's 2 wins.
Yeah.
In Philadelphia, close games where the Raptors, even though the execution wasn't great tonight, it was still good enough to get a win. And you know, we've been saying this probably for a month and a half now. Is there anybody that Toronto should be afraid of in the playoffs? You know, nobody wants to see Toronto. And you know, I was talking to yesterday, I was talking to a coach and from an upcoming team that the Raptors are playing. You know, he made the point. He said, I love what they're doing. The length, the size. And he went as far as to say to me, he said, I said to him, well, what do you think about Scotty? He goes, and he said, Scotty, he said, that's Giannis with a jump shot right there.
Yeah.
And this is what they're saying. That, I mean, this is the kind of respect that he and the Raptors are garnering around the league. So don't let the fact that they're in the 7th seed or whatever. I mean, they get into the playoffs, you wipe the slate clean. It's 0-0 for everybody. And let's see what happens.
I think they're the deadliest play-in team, probably in the entire NBA, let alone the East side. Nobody wants Toronto in a single elimination game. The players and the coaching staff.
If they beat Chicago,
or Brooklyn.
Yeah, right.
Well, guess what?
If you beat Chicago, though, if they beat Chicago tomorrow, they have the same number of wins as Chicago. Like who are fifth in the East, right?
This is that's everyone's been talking about Cleveland, but I think Chicago's the team that's going to fall. They have the toughest remaining schedule. They've got Milwaukee twice. They've got Miami. They've got Toronto. They've got a ton of tough Eastern opponents. And it's going to be, I think for them this week's, we're going to see, because I think tomorrow night's game is monumental in terms of that seeding.
Well, love the playoffs, love the bump and grind, as does Sherm. I know that for a fact. For Sherm, I'm kidding.
Oh, what was that?
Randall?
I know it's a late game, dude, but chill out.
I'm trying, man. I don't know.
we talk about it. Playoff time, and I know the tournament's going on now, and people love March Madness, but I'm sorry, that rock fight between Texas Tech and Notre Dame tonight, 59-53. I mean, it's exciting, but to me, there's nothing like grown men playing for a ring, because there's no money at that point. There's bonus money. They've been paid for the regular season. This is about getting a chip, and we're 12, 13 games away. There is just nothing like it. Nothing like it.
But Jonesy, I will say them games in the Sweet 16, okay? Ooh.
Yes.
Come on now.
Yes. Yeah. And you got Charles Barkley sitting down. There's no gritty tonight for Charles, that's for sure.
Sure. I was just remembering how you play at all levels, no matter what. There's a great charity basketball game that we both played in, and you were on a man on a mission there. I just love that about you.
Why is he nice tonight, Sherm? Jeez, what's going on?
I don't know. I think Randy just has some issue because it was a late game. Get your sleep, young buck. Get your sleep. Okay.
I'm going to get there. I appreciate you guys doing this, as always. Great show. Next game for the Raptors is Monday night. Yeah, Monday night against the Chicago Bulls, 8 p.m. Eastern. We will see you then.